الذين كلموكم بكلمة الله انظروا إلى نهاية سيرته فتمثلوا بإيمانهم.
قديس اعترف بقداسته المجمع المقدس للكنيسة القبطية الأرثوذكسية برئاسة قداسة البابا تودروس الثاني في 20 يونيو 2013.
شخصية تستحق التأمل لدرجة إن نيافة الأنبا سوريال أخذ دكتوراه في الدراسة عنه.
القديس حبيب جرجس هو ده مؤسس مدارس الأحد اللي احنا النهاردة بنحتفل بمرور 100 سنة على تأسيسها،
وهيكلمنا عنه وعن دوره في تأسيس مدارس الأحد في كنيستنا القبطية والنهوض بالتعليم الكنسي. نيافة الأنبا سوريال أسقف ميلبورن بأستراليا، والحاصل على وسامة قديس أغناطيوس بالسويد.
حصل على الوسام ده لدوره في نشر التعليم الأرثوذكسي في أستراليا من خلال تأسيسه لكلية القديس أثناسيوس القبطية، وهي أول مؤسسة قبطية بتمنح درجات علمية معتمدة ومعترف بها دوليا. His Grace Anba Surial will be talking to us about Saint Habib Girgis and his role in establishing the Sunday schools. His Holiness Anba Surial, Bishop of Melbourne and affiliated regions, and the recipient of Order of Saint Ignatius in Sweden. It will give us great pleasure and honor if you come forward so we can listen to your speech.
Pope Tawadros II, and our many distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great joy to congratulate Your Holiness and the whole Church on this joyous occasion of celebrating the centenary since the establishment of the first General Committee to oversee the work of Sunday schools throughout Egypt. My speech tonight is titled Saint Archdeacon Habib Girgis and his role in the Sunday school movement. Saint Habib Girgis was indeed a man beyond his time and began his work under very difficult circumstances. His Holiness Pope Shenouda III of blessed memory said, "Our teacher Archdeacon Habib Girgis, pioneer of religious education in our generation, started his life in an age that was almost void of religious education and knowledge. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, as the book of Genesis describes. Then God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light, and the light was Habib Girgis." Truly, Habib Girgis was a light to Egypt, and particularly for the Coptic Church, with respect to religious and theological education. A blazing pioneer with an amazing zeal, passion, and tenacity in achieving his goal in maintaining Coptic identity and enlightening the Copts about their faith and kindling a burning desire in them towards the importance of Christian Orthodox faith and education. Saint Habib Girgis felt a great responsibility towards each child throughout Egypt and beyond to bring them closer to Christ, to a deeper understanding of their faith, and to have a great sense of pride in their Coptic identity and to live as patriotic citizens of Egypt. The establishment and success of the Sunday school movement which flourishes even today in the Coptic Orthodox Church, are attributable largely to the work of Habib Girgis. While still a student at the Coptic Orthodox Seminary in Cairo, Girgis realized that children were the key to the revival of the church. Not only had generations of young Copts, been deprived of a sound education in their faith, but they were the most vulnerable to conversion to competing denominations that had entered into Egypt in the mid-19th century. Girgis's community was mired in illiteracy, ignorance, and apathy. He decided to attack this problem head-on, and in the case of most of his conquests, he chose education as his weapon. He began informally by gathering local children on Sundays at the various churches and societies in Cairo, beginning with the Church of the Virgin Mary in the middle-class suburb of El-Fajjala in 1900. He taught these young people about the Bible, the Coptic rites, church history, and the lives of Egyptian saints and martyrs. Habib Girgis decided to emulate the Western missionaries. He wrote a Coptic catechism, كتاب خلاصة الأصول الإيمانية في معتقدات الكنيسة القبطية الأرثوذكسية, The Doctrines of the Coptic Orthodox Faith, a foundational synopsis, a question and answer catechism for grades 1 to 4 in 3 volumes, which was published in a series of 4 books in 1898. And the popularity of his classes continued to grow. At this time, the Coptic hierarchy was starting to take action in the field, and no doubt this inspired Habib Girgis in his work. In 1898, the Holy Synod issued its decree on the necessity of Christian education for school children, and the following year, Pope Carolus V acknowledged the Church's responsibility to provide Christian education to the young. Then, in 1903, the third decree was issued from the Holy Synod on 4 major concerns that had a strong bearing on Habib Girgis's work, pertaining to implant Christian education among Coptic children from a young age. Pope Carolus V, probably acting on a suggestion offered to him by Habib Girgis during one of their regular weekly discussions, decided in 1918 to form a general committee to oversee the religious education offered to state school students on Fridays and to Coptic school students on Sundays. The committee had 10 members, including Habib Girgis, and was headquartered at the seminary, and branches were set up throughout Egypt. Basing the formative work of the Sunday schools at the seminary was a strategic move on Habib Girgis's part. The seminary was the heart of education in the church, the place where future Coptic leaders, priests, deacons, and lay leaders were formed. It thus became an ideal laboratory where Girgis could test his ideas and theories on the faculty and students. The seminary's intellectual environment fostered the publications and research needed to develop sound pedagogical methods, textbooks, and curricula, setting the right tone for this vital work of educating the young. As defined by Habib Girgis, the aims of Sunday schools later set out in the Sunday School Constitution of 1949, known as the Fundamental Law for Coptic Orthodox Sunday Schools and the Coptic Youth League in the See of St. Mark, included encouraging children to keep Sunday as the holy day, to attend the liturgy, and to receive Holy Communion on Sunday in Coptic schools and Friday in government schools. Teaching the students scripture and virtues and implanting in them a spirit of nationalism and community service were also part of Habib Girgis's vision. Girls were to be taught too, but separately from boys. Habib Girgis began moving in an expansive way to ensure that religious education spread beyond Cairo to every church and society in Egypt, and even into Sudan and Ethiopia. Branches of the Sunday School movement were established in each Egyptian parish and its surrounding villages and towns, all under the leadership of the local parish priest. This governance arrangement was a significant asset to the movement, since it meant that Sunday schools were an activity the priests controlled, rather than one that challenged their authority. At each church, a Sunday school was established, while in each city, a Coptic Youth League was set up. The League had branches in every church and brought members together on a regular basis to discuss general strategies. The Coptic Youth League officially commenced in 1918 and continued to evolve until its final structure in 1948. So this year, 2018, also marks 100 years since the establishment of youth ministry in the Coptic Orthodox Church under the wise leadership of Habib Girgis, and I hope that this can be included in the celebrations this year. The strong links between the Sunday School movement's headquarters and branches helped to entrench a uniform educational philosophy across the country. The organization was reformed in 1927 and the committee enlarged to 20 members, including Habib Girgis as General Secretary. The Sunday schools established branches in provinces all over Egypt that grew into centers of spiritual activity, with prayer groups, classes, and meetings for every grade. It was not unusual for Sunday school classes to be initiated even before a church had its own priest. By 1938, there were 85 Sunday school branches in Cairo and the provinces, 3 in Sudan and 1 in Ethiopia. Altogether, there were 10,000 students of various ages attending Sunday schools across Egypt, and 1,000 in Ethiopia. Habib Girgis printed 9,000 4-page lessons each month for the older students, and 6,000 religious pictures with a simple description of the lesson on the back for the younger ones. He approved the library for Sunday schools at Giza that served as a hub for communicating with Sunday schools in both Upper and Lower Egypt, outside of Cairo and Alexandria. Educational materials introduced by the Western missionaries, such as religious pictures and illustrated books, became central to Habib Girgis's method. These were being given free to school children in Cairo, who received them eagerly. Titles distributed in Egypt by the Malta Press included scripture stories and dogmatic teachings. There is ample evidence to prove that Habib Girgis heavily utilized literature from abroad in his teaching, though he made sure he adapted this material to suit the Orthodox faith. Habib Girgis led and participated in two important conferences for Sunday school teachers, one held in 1941 and the second in 1949. The first of their kind in the Coptic Church. These conferences served both as an opportunity to further the spiritual growth and the teachers and as a forum to foster collaboration by discussing, planning, organization, and teaching methods. The first conference, which took place in November of 1941, was attended by more than 350 teachers, representing 50 Sunday schools in Cairo. Participants at this conference decided that a department for the training of Sunday school teachers should be established at the seminary with a special system and program for 3 years of study. Nobody could be accredited to teach Sunday school without this qualification. Those living in remote areas might study by correspondence, marking the first time that distance education had been offered in Egypt. Habib Girgis always tried to devise new methods of reaching out to his teachers in endeavoring to make education accessible to all. He was well ahead of his time. By the mid-1940s, the Sunday school movement was well established throughout Egypt. It was highly regarded not only in church and religious circles, but also in government circles and by Egyptian society as a whole. Habib Girgis implemented a new committee structure and administrative system. The Higher Central Committee for Sunday Schools and the Coptic Youth League in the See of St. Mark was established to oversee the whole enterprise. Today, the patriarchal archives beneath St. Mark's Cathedral in Cairo house a treasure trove of documents pertaining to the work of Habib Girgis. Over 7,000 pages, including correspondence to and from Habib Girgis, reports on the Sunday school movement and the seminary, various budgets, curricula, and many of the standard forms that Habib Girgis devised to gather important information from the Sunday school branches. Habib Girgis believed that a well-structured administrative system was necessary in order to educate, and he gave great attention to implementing such a system for the Sunday school movement and the Coptic Youth League. In 1937, Habib Girgis wrote his second curriculum, another 4-volume series for use at the elementary level titled المبادئ المسيحية الأرثوذكسية للمدارس الابتدائية, Christian Orthodox Principles for Elementary Schools, grades 1 to 4. Habib Girgis established a unified curriculum that would standardize the programs, lessons, pictures, and strategies circulated in Sunday schools throughout the See of St. Mark. The purpose of a unified curriculum was to maintain a spirit of unity in the church, safeguard consistency of teaching, and preserve doctrines and traditions so that the schools might carry out their mission in the most perfect form for the glory of the Savior and the ministry of His church. While working on the general curriculum, Habib Girgis also included a 52-week curriculum for the spiritual edification and pedagogical development of teachers. Further, Habib Girgis prepared support materials for teachers that were published and distributed in the 6 volumes of the Educational Studies for Teachers of Coptic Orthodox Sunday Schools. In their entirety, these volumes address teachers of children from infancy until 13 years of age, describing how lessons should be prepared on a solid pedagogical and psychological foundation. As such, the books tell us much about Habib Girgis's educational philosophy and pedagogical views. Volume 6, for example, targets children aged 10 to 13 and is divided into 4 sections. The first outlines the most important characteristics of children of this age group. The second discusses methods of teaching them. The third describes the most important skills that teachers need for effective teaching. And the fourth has questions for reviewing the material presented. He advocates a holistic view of child development by stating this. These are the words of Habib Girgis himself. He says this: teaching is neither the dictation of advice, nor of orders, nor of instruction. Rather, it is the participation between the teacher and the child in a common spirit for knowledge. Therefore, it is the teacher's duty not to dictate information or to hand out absolute orders to these children in their care, but they should provide them with the opportunity to discover everything on their own and offer sufficient assistance to enable them to make these discoveries. These are things that are taught as educational philosophies in our day and time. Habib Girgis was thinking about this over 100 years ago. Amazing. He continues to say, among the aims of this important theory of education are: 1, to ensure that the child lives a virtuous life from an early age and to go beyond stating mere facts about how to live it thereafter. 2, to ensure that activity gives rise to vigor. 3, to combine research with pleasure and happiness, and to reap and harvest the results to deepen the effects of research on life. He's speaking about education, that it should be something pleasurable and something that brings joy and happiness to the children. These, again, are theories that are being discussed today in education. And I remember when I was doing my PhD, we discussed together a book about happiness in education. And Habib Girgis was talking about this 100 years ago. And fourthly, he says, to ensure that the pleasure and happiness of the children ignite their inner desire for knowledge rather than mere facts provided for memorization. End of quote. Such pedagogical views stem from those of 19th century German educator Friedrich Froebel, dubbed the inventor of kindergarten, who championed child-centered education. Like Froebel, Habib Girgis wanted children to see themselves as part of the unity of the world and encouraged teachers to help youngsters develop self-determination and freedom. Habib Girgis also insisted that teachers inspire children to meet their own needs and establish their own identities. We know that Habib Girgis was aware of Froebel's work, for he mentioned him in his writings. This example gives us a glimpse into how Habib Girgis drew upon the theories of Western thinkers and educators to give Coptic Sunday school teachers a modern educational philosophy, crystallized in Arabic, that they could implement in their classes if they heeded his advice. Poetry and hymnology also played an important role. Habib Girgis believed that he could teach the central beliefs of the Coptic faith to children through hymns that he wrote himself. He also favored the use of hymns because they were part of the Orthodox tradition that he strived to preserve. Habib Girgis's efforts in the ministry of Sunday schools were crowned when in April 1948 he was appointed editor-in-chief of the well-known publication Majallat Madaris al-Ahad, Sunday School Magazine, a religious, educational, and social journal, which had been founded the previous year. The magazine, under Girgis's direction, included a variety of articles for Sunday school teachers and parents. These might discuss how to manage a troublesome child in the classroom, how to conduct prayer meetings and their effect on the ministry, moral education, or how to encourage children to practice at home what they had learned at Sunday school, as the following piece from Habib Girgis demonstrates. And this is really quite amazing. This is what he says. He says, a student who was 12 years of age came to Sunday school for the first time. The lesson was about prayer, and the teacher explained the sample of this prayer. When the young boy went home at the family meeting in the evening, he brought out the Holy Bible, opened it, and surprised the family by telling them that he would read the chapter aloud, and that they would afterward pray, Our Father who art in heaven. The entire family submitted to this young boy, and in this way the family began for the first time to practice family prayer. This deed, Habib Girgis says, should have been carried out by the father, but the student of Sunday school accomplished what the father neglected to do. O Father, Habib Girgis says, will you reclaim your status as the priest of the family? If you do not wish to do so, or are incapable of such, then we have a humble request. We beseech you not to stand in the way of your son, but allow him to live in freedom in the bosom of his God. Despite the many early obstacles, Habib Girgis's efforts ultimately brought success to the Sunday school movement. The handful of Sunday schools that he had set up at the outset of his mission at the turn of the 20th century had, by the end of his life in the late 40s, grown to more than 650 branches, offering 2,100 classes across all of Egypt, Sudan, and the Wahad, with 43,000 children being educated by 2,500 teachers and assistants. In 1948, Habib Girgis wrote this at the end of his life. These days, we are no longer in need to write about the importance of Sunday school to the church. Its practical effects in the lives of the children and the teachers have become manifest. Its spirit and principles have nourished homes immensely. Fathers and mothers have felt its value in the lives of their children. Parents have loved it, for it has also influenced their lives in an indirect way. Children have imparted the message of life to their parents. The time in which we exerted every effort to convince our fathers, the bishops and priests, of the importance of Sunday schools has passed. Now, not only do we see them encouraging it, but requesting its expansion in all the cities and villages in their dioceses. Every priest desires to have a Sunday school in his parish. Sunday schools did not reach this stage except after the clergyman trusted in it when it proved itself to be one of the members of the church. It is, in fact, among its most important members. Being in the bosom of the church allows it to develop and thrive, and from its milk one can drink and learn. One may grasp its laws and traditions and remain firm. End of quote. And finally, in fact, while historians consider Pope Carolus IV to be the father of Coptic reform. Saint Archdeacon Habib Girgis should be considered the father of education, both religious and theological, in the modern Coptic era. Moreover, he is to be regarded as the educational administrator par excellence of his time. This is evident through the efforts that Habib Girgis exerted at the Coptic Theological College, through the statutes that he designed to run the college in 1912, and through his efforts as dean to operate the theological college on sound administrative principles, as well, of course, as through his organizing the Sunday school movement. Indeed, he was a man ahead of his time. It is a great joy and honor for me to speak about this great modern saint, and I am overjoyed today to see this wonderful celebration of the centenary of Sunday schools, and it brings great joy to my heart. And I thank His Holiness and the Synod for preparing this beautiful celebration today. Thank you, Your Holiness.